Hello, everybody. I am glad you've joined me today. I am going to be sharing my interview with the amazing Susan Boyle. We're going to be talking about St. Patrick's Day beers and stews, and we actually get off into some some unusual areas, and actually butter and even thousand-year butter. So I think you're really going to enjoy this. I'll be anxious to hear what you have to say in the chat. But meanwhile, here we go. Thanks for watching. Your views make this interview entirely possible, and hitting that subscribe button is also transformative to the channel. But 73 of you for some reason haven't done it. So if you found value in these videos, please like and subscribe to fuel our growth, our clout, and attract even more great guests like Susan Boyle. Now, Susan, welcome and thank you for joining. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Doug. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm delighted to be able to come on and chat to you.
Well, the last time we saw each other, we were judging in Blumenau, Brazil. It was a lot hotter. And
it certainly was.
Yeah, we were talking about St. Patrick's, and we really ought to consider scheduling our program. That was almost a year ago. But I expected us to connect in Ireland. But look at you. You're no longer in Ireland, right?
No, there's been a little bit of a change of scenery, Doug. At the moment, I am based in Washington, D.C. So we are actually in the same time zone, which makes it much more easy for doing this kind of chat and this collaboration. And it's because I'm spending a little bit of time here researching at the Smithsonian Museum of American History. So that's why I'm in town working on a Fulbright until the summertime.
Well, you are so diverse in all the things you have experienced, because it's not only beer, but you have experience with whiskey and all kind of things. But we're going to dive into maybe something you and I really haven't talked too much about, and that is recipes. So we both love Guinness beer, and I know that from our various meetings in Europe and South America. But with St. Patrick's Day coming, I've got the beer, but I'm really not sure the best food. So I was interested. Could you share some of the best recipes that combine Guinness beer and, I guess, an Irish stew for St. Patrick's Day? Because I want it to be authentic. Now, and I'm going to open mine, if you don't mind, while you're answering that question.
Well, I think stout lends itself, as particularly Irish stout, because it tends to be more bitter and it tends to have these lovely like kind of malty notes to it, and that works really, really well when you slow cook it down with some great grass-fed Irish beef. We're very lucky in Ireland, it rains a lot, so our beef gets to spend an awful lot of time out on pasture, and that makes its meat really tender and really good. So if you wanted, I'll give you a minute there to open my can there, Doug, because it makes a noise. And we are talking about Guinness here, but there's plenty of other great Irish stouts as well that are absolutely worth keeping an eye out to. Guinness will be the one that you'll find more readily, but you can also keep an eye out for some of our great craft stouts as well, which I know will definitely be floating around at this time of the year, because we love our dark, rich, malty beers. We love them with a bit of bitterness. When you decide to combine those and slow cook those down in a stew, you end up bringing out those roast flavors, and then with the meatiness that you get with the beef, it will just melt apart. But also suggests that when you're selecting the beef that you're going to use for these stews, something that's really important is take a little bit of time and to dredge them in a little bit of seasoned flour, and then to pan fry and get the color up on that beef, so that then you get that lovely caramelization on the outside of the meat, so that then when it slow cooks down in the lovely sauce with the juices, with some onions, throw in some mushrooms, add in a glug, a good pint of like some nice Irish stout, then that will all melt and be just really delicious and really unctuous and really tasty. You can serve that alongside some like delicious mashed potatoes, or even just boiled potatoes. We do have a soft spot for potatoes in Ireland, so it's always a good thing. So, hearty bowl of stew. It's a good time of the year to be eating it and to be enjoying it too. So that would be a rather traditional take on Irish stew for St. Patrick's Day.
So, what makes it authentic? Because I really want to feel authentic and not just have something that's green like my shirt and call it a Patrick's Day celebration?
It's really interesting for me. Where I think authenticity comes from is people. And I think that's something that like brings through, because we can always look back in history, but history is all about people as well. So for me, what I would do is I would look at some of the great Irish cooks and chefs, and I would look for their interpretation of the recipe. So when it comes to things like this, I just adore Dorina Allen. She has been one of the people who put Ireland's food on a plate for the whole of the world to see. So any of her recipes, I think, have a level of authenticity. There's a playfulness about it as well. Like she'll add different ingredients because, you know, Ireland is an island. We've been influenced by the people who come to the island as well as being Irish people who've influenced other places abroad, because a lot of us left and got to other places. And I think that's what you could consider making it authentic is looking at and also who you eat it with and who you share it with, because food and drink is all about, I think, the memories and the people that you're creating. So while we can look for this level of like what might be very authentic to me and what I celebrated in my family growing up may be very different to what other people from Ireland also celebrated, and very different to what Irish communities around the world celebrate too. So I think we can find our authenticity by looking at the people that we want to connect with and the experiences that we want to have. And that's what I would think would be. And a good dollop of Irish butter. If you can use Irish ingredients, go for it.
So are there any ingredients or cooking methods that make the Irish stew, Irish?
Irish. Well, I would think like stews in general. There's a large history of stews from throughout the world. But yeah, we would slow cook things in stews in ovens traditionally, like either on hearths as well. So that's how that would have been made. And then using things like good quality Irish ingredients. So things that grow on the land and go on the land. So, stouts from Ireland and beef from Ireland too. But you might play around with some of those things, but definitely, like, I think the thing is that there's some traditions that I think many people in the United States associate with Ireland, and those traditions are a little bit different to maybe what happens on the island of Ireland. The example of that would be something like corned beef and cabbage. We rarely eat corned beef in Ireland. We would be much more likely to have bacon and cabbage as something that would be traditional to us in Ireland. But that's simply because we didn't have as much access to beef, and everyone had access to pig meat, so we had more bacon. And that's it. But when Irish immigrants ended up in New York, they ended up often in areas where there were Jewish people who had settled as well. And those Jewish butchers had the skill of making these amazing corned beef and these seasoned beef products. And because we were Irish and we were now in a brand new society, we were a little bit uppity. We decided that we would get in on that and eat beef rather than eating the more traditional bacon that we would be more used to at home. So then that gave rise to the kind of classic Irish American dish here, which is corned beef and cabbage. But that's not really something that you would find on menus anywhere within Ireland.
Well, but I like that take on it, because I think that's what I want to get at. So as we talk about the combination of the beer with the Irish stew, is that common to combine the two and cook with beer, or is that more, as you said, certain people want to do that, certain cooks want to do that?
Well, I think using alcohol within food has always been a great thing as far as I'm concerned. Like there's long traditions of like in different traditions of like flambeing things, or like a boeuf bourguignon, sloshing in some red wine into something to make it taste better. In my kitchen, Doug, I have like really just 3 rules. If I taste something and it doesn't taste great, it needs one of the 3 B's, and that means that it either needs bacon, butter, or booze. And if I can put all 3 in, I've solved the problem.
Well, now that you mentioned butter, I'm going to put you on the spot, because we hadn't talked about this, but a friend of mine is a chef, and he had made some, I think it was actually banana bread, probably not very Irish, but he said it required.
I'm going to give you a really interesting tip that one of Ireland's major exports is bananas, because we have a rather large banana ripening centre in Ireland. So we process bananas in Ireland for the rest of Europe.
Well, that's quite unexpected. But we were, he had brought some and I was trying it, and he said, no, I don't want to use your butter. Use this butter. And I said, what is so special about your butter? He says, Irish butter.
We're very proud of our butter. We have been exporting butter from Ireland for thousands of years, literally thousands of years. And one of the oldest things that I have ever tasted in my life is a product called bog butter. It is found packaged and wrapped and like deep in the bogs in Ireland. And it's thousands of years old. And it's the literal oldest thing I've ever tasted. By the time you taste it, it doesn't have any like you're just left with it almost looks like kind of a calcium, a chalky kind of product, but the most intensely butter flavored thing I have ever tasted, and it's thousands of years old.
The butter is literally thousands of years old.
It's been preserved by the bog. So there's the pH levels of the bog preserve the butter. And you're talking about thousands of years ago, someone who was like passing through went, oh, sure, I'll just leave my butter here for a minute. I'll remember to come back to it. And they never managed to. So then if there's people who are cutting the bog or working on the bog, you often find these deposits of bog butter. And I was at a festival with some chefs a couple of years ago, just before the pandemic. And one of the chefs had some of this and he was grading it and passing it out. And I'm like, it's just the weirdest thing to eat something that's thousands of years old. I suppose we eat salt all the time and it's thousands of years old as well, but a product that is made and processed by someone like butter. So we love butter, and one of our major exports from Ireland is butter. We have a lot of Kerrygold that you'll find out and about, and we're very proud of the quality of our butter. But again, that goes back to the fact that it rains on the island of Ireland. So like I said, our beef are out on pasture, and also our dairy cows are out on pasture too. So they're eating lush green grass, and it brings up the beta carotene in the butter. It gives it its gorgeous creamy gold color, and the fat content is really nice and high in it. So it's really super delicious, and it's a little goes a long way. It's great, but more of it is always better.
So if we talk about what makes it an authentic Irish stew, you go back to the chef and the recipe. You might have some good Irish beer in it,
Absolutely.
not necessarily Guinness. Sounds like some Irish butter is nearly a requirement.
Yep.
What else would be a requirement?
Well, I think you need to build flavor in a stew. So you would like cook down, like slow cook, caramelize some onions, use the butter in that, doing that, and then deglaze that off with your stout of choice. And that's really, and time. So I think this is something that's really interesting with cooking, is the amount of time that you need to give something. And the magic happens with a great stew. Many people will tell you that it's much better the day afterwards than it is the day that you cook it. Because one, you don't have all the effort that you put into it because you've already had it done. And second, that the flavors meld together and they mix really nicely, and it all just settles and it's delicious. So that would be another thing that I would think would be an important factor. Give it time. It's going to need about 3 hours in an oven. But my goodness, if you can wait and make a big enough portion so you can have it the next day, it'll be delicious.
So make it a day or two ahead of time is what I hear.
Oh, if you could, yeah, and it freezes beautifully as well. Yeah. So you won't have any deterioration in the texture and the quality of the stew. If you freeze it, it'll be just as good to take out and enjoy it another time without as much preparation.
Well, so I've got quite a few of these Guinness stouts, and I'm going to make mine with some Guinness stout and probably
Excellent.
some Irish butter.
Lovely.
And what other beers would be great to pair with it? I mean, I think the Guinness would be good to pair, but are there some authentic, trying to keep this truly Irish?
Yeah.
Some other beers that would be great to go with an Irish stew?
Well, I would suggest that the two main styles of beer that are associated with Ireland would be dry Irish stout, and which we've already talked about, Guinness being the most available commercial sample of that, and then also an Irish red ale. We make some delicious malty, roasty red ales. They don't have as much of that kind of roasted barley that you'll find in stouts like Guinness, but they're a little bit lighter and brighter, but these lovely caramel sweet notes that I think will go delicious with your stew, or just actually is a really good beer to have, like to pair with many different kind of food types, great with cheeses, and not so bad on its own, just in a pint as well.
Well, and I guess I'm trying to think, is it Smithfield? That's
Smithwick's might be
Smithwick's, yeah.
The Smithwick's the brewery that you're looking for. O'Hara's is a brewery that I know is available in the US. So they do some great stouts and a lovely red ale as well. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, if you keep an eye out for any, even if you can't find a red ale from Ireland, have a look for even an American red ale as well and see. They'll usually find that the hop quantity will be turned up a little bit in the American styles. But at this time of the year as well, you'll find lots of your local breweries that are looking for inspiration from Ireland as well. The same way that we're talking about how Ireland can inspire us here in relation to our food choices and our drinks choices, there are brewers and breweries all over this country being inspired by the notion of Ireland and our national festival coming up. So I know that have been putting on like Irish red ales a couple of months ago and putting their own twist on that too.
So you're going to be in an interesting dilemma because you're going to be celebrating St. Patrick's in the USA. What are you going to do? How are you going to have an authentic St. Patrick's Day celebration?
I'm not sure because it's a while since I've spent a St. Patrick's Day here. My memories of being here for St. Patrick's Day before is that it's always such a great celebration. It's actually been quite interesting because celebrating St. Patrick's Day in Ireland was, for so long, it was such a religious feast. Like for a lot of the time, Doug, like the pubs were closed, you couldn't sell alcohol on it. It was a very different experience than what it is actually now, where we kind of embrace it more. And the way it tends to fall is that Ireland being a traditionally Catholic country, St. Patrick's Day falls in the middle of Lent. So that meant that it really wasn't a huge time of celebration. But we've kind of changed our thinking on that now, which is great. And we're kind of aligning more with our American cousins in relation to embracing that. So what I'm looking forward to doing while I'm here is really just kind of exploring. I'm going to be connecting with some other Irish people who are in town as well. I'll be raising a pint of something Irish. And I'm positive I'll be drinking some Irish whiskey as well to celebrate. And I'm just really looking forward to connecting and seeing what other people's traditions are here that are around St. Patrick's Day. And of course I'll have to wear green or else I'll get pinched apparently. So
yeah, a lot of people when they found out that we were going to do an interview, they said, gosh, you got to work in some whiskey. And I said, well, maybe I can talk her into another interview and we'll kind of stay focused.
I'd love to. Yeah, I've been working on a really lovely project for the last couple of years called The Spirit of Ireland that I developed with the Irish Food Board. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to spread the incredible story of the history and Renaissance and what's happening within the Irish whiskey industry at the moment. It's really exciting. So you'll have to bring me back to talk about that.
Yes, let's definitely do that. But let's focus back because this is a St. Patrick's Day conversation. So as we kind of wrap things up and help everybody kind of get their arms around everything you said, what would be your summary of, food-wise, beer and Irish stew? What would you recommend to people for having a great St. Patrick's Day food and beer?
Great St. Patrick's Day food and beer. Find I love a great Irish stew, like we've talked about. That's going to be absolutely delicious. Pint of Irish stout, fantastic, or a pint of Irish red ale, and anything with Irish butter on it. Oh my goodness! Like even if you just have to put on a spoon, like get some Irish butter into you on St. Patrick's Day. And if in doubt, think about things like with potatoes, like potato cakes and like box tea, which is a great like kind of potato cake that you can make really easily and is absolutely delicious. Slather the butter on top of that as well. Give us lunch and have a pint for Ireland.
I can't top that. Have a pint for Ireland. That sounds great. Well, Susan, it's so super to join us today. We're going to get to the rapid fire questions in just a moment. But I want to hear for everybody that's watching this video, I want to hear how you're going to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, what your traditions are, what foods, what combinations, your favorite beers. So please leave those in the comments because I'm anxious to hear those. And I bet Susan may be joining in and reading those comments too. So Susan, we're going to switch to the rapid fire. And I've got a couple of questions, not looking for a long answer, but I know you're quite scholarly, so I'm looking forward to the answer. So the first one that I want to know, St. Patrick's Day, what are its true origins and what's an authentic celebration?
Okay, so St. Patrick's Day is the Irish patron saint. He wasn't Irish. We aren't exactly sure where he came from. We think somewhere in the British Isles, but maybe he came from further south. And there also may have been two of him, which makes things even more confusing. But it's pretty much understood that we celebrate the 17th of March because it is the day that St. Patrick died. So along with St. Bridget and St. Columbus, he's the patron saint of the three patron saints of Ireland. So that's why we celebrate him. And he is credited for bringing Christianity to our little island and getting rid of snakes. But we never really had snakes in the first place. So that was kind of a nice little thing that he wrapped up.
I know my wife would like that if he could come back and get rid of them here.
Yeah, I know you have a lot of them over here. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think we more can thank glacial plains for that and tectonic stuff for keeping us without any snakes. But I don't think we can ask St. Patrick's Day for that.
Well, most of the ones in the southeast are pretty small and innocuous, and all they do is eat bugs. So thankfully,
oh, that's good.
No bad ones around here. All right, next rapid fire question. What is the most authentic Irish St. Patrick's Day beer?
I think you're going to have to pint of stout. Yeah, a pint of delicious, creamy, roasty Irish stout. That's going to be the most authentic thing you can have.
But red stouts are actually older, aren't they?
So I'm not exactly sure about the history of which beer style came first. If I have an understanding that there was a tax on malted barley, and that prior to that tax, beer would have mostly been made using malted barley. But then when the tax came in, it changed how both whiskey and beer was being made. So in the beer situation for a beer like Guinness, they started to use roasted barley rather than using roasted malt. So they saved that step of the process and they saved a bit of tax. And then in relation to Irish whiskies, we developed a style of whiskey called pot still Irish whiskey, which included some unmalted barley into the mash, and that also brought down the tax bill. So as to if a red ale was historically older than a stout, possibly, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to look it up.
We'll have to circle back on that one.
But that's all right. I'm never a person who minds not knowing the answer. I just now want to go and find out, Doug.
and that's why you're so amazing. So as we get to the end of this, so what are the most traditional St. Patrick's Day's foods?
Yeah, definitely things like stew. We love roast lamb in Ireland as well. So you get lots of roast lamb. It's a good time of the year for roast lamb as well. And something that I completely forgot to mention is we have great seafood in Ireland as well. So lots of great fish, like great fish pies and some really delicious oysters. And while Irish people are still learning to love oysters a little bit, we grow some incredible oysters. Historically, we always ate a lot of oysters. But we're now growing really beautiful oysters in Irish water as well. So keep an eye out for some of those. And they're great with the stout.
Well, Susan, I think it's great that you're here in the U.S. I look forward to catching up with you. I want to circle back with you on the whiskeys and maybe get the answer on which came first, the Irish stout, the dark Irish stout versus a red.
Or the red ale.
Yeah. I think
it's probably the red when I think about it, but I'm not gonna. Oh,
well, good. We can
have to research it.
Well, we could circle back on that. I want to hear about your St. Patrick's Day celebration. Look forward to judging with you again. And for those of you in the audience, I'm anxious to hear, what your favorite beers are, what your favorite St. Patrick's Day. If you've got a recipe, please share it there in the comments. I know Susan and I would love to see them. So, Susan, this is great. I know you're super busy with all the things you're doing, and you were just in New York and you're in Washington, D.C. and all these places. I hope you have a wonderful time while you're here in the USA.
I do too, Doug, and I can't wait till we get to share a pint together sometime soon.
I'll be looking forward to it. Maybe we'll get to judge together again. Cheers.
I hope so. Cheers. Launch it. Take care.
Susan was so much fun, and she was so knowledgeable. It was great hearing all the details and the bog butter or the details in the butter really caught me off guard. I would love to hear your St. Patrick's Day traditions, your recipes, your favorite beers. I haven't planned my St. Patrick's Day yet. I was hoping Susan could help me. I think she has. Hope she has helped you. And put your comments down there below. I would love to hear from you. Till the next time, cheers.